Oh, Patty, you just turned yourself on. That's good. Let's hear from Patty. But we don't hear you because
There
you're.
we go. You can
There
hear
we
me
go.
now.
That's great.
Good.
Patty,
Hi,
I have I
everybody.
have I met you, Patty?
Yes, you have Dr. Veggie.
Where was it on one of these little screens?
No, so it's first of all, what an amazing group of people. These stories are phenomenal.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Well, thank you all.
And mine is different, and it's interesting. Just the variety and just the beauty of the power that it had for so many of us who came from different places in our lives, right? To find this, and what we were looking for and what we found many times is different, you know.
Hmm.
But anyway, so a dear friend of mine, Jean Oswald, who is a local RN, she's a holistic practitioner. She took me to see Dr. Michael Grieger speak at Rochester Lifestyle Medicine's event at the Academy of Medicine. 5 years ago, was that?
Probably around four
Probably.
years ago. Yeah.
That blew my mind. I
Hmm.
had never really heard anything like that before. I went home, I told my husband, we've got to get this China study. We've got to get this book. And we got it the next day. And we dove right in, and we just pretty much cleaned out everything in our lives that wasn't plant-based whole foods. Now, luckily, 6 months later, I found out about that course you were giving. I took it at the JCC. It was probably 4 years ago.
Okay.
And that was just unbelievable to me to see that there's already the pretty much anything that you want to find whole food plant-based is so much easier and easier to find. And from a health perspective, though, I've always had really good cholesterol, you know, low blood pressure. I've struggled with my weight my whole life. I'm finally realizing at this age that I think you come in with a set point. Now, Dr. Ted, you may disagree with me, but I do believe there's a set point in each one of us, and what's healthy for one is not necessarily healthy for another. That is, it said, I was riding, and I still do a lot of cycling. That's something I've been doing for years and years. Thousands and thousands of miles a year on my bike in my 40s and 50s, and still gaining 5 pounds every year. So my set weight was changing, 140, then it was 150, and then it was 160, but my numbers were always really good. So my PCP would say, you know, you're never going to have a heart attack, which I know. I'm also a nurse, and I know that's not true, you know. But that's what my doctor would say to me. Even if I got heavier, she'd say, well, your numbers are all really good. So anyway, I saw the Dr. Grieger talk, and then we started the plant-based food. I took the course with you, and long story short, I took off 23 pounds in about 3.5, 4 years ago, and I've kept it off. The pandemic has been a problem for me. That's why I hate to bum everybody out, because now we're going to talk about the hard parts, because there are. I did find the pandemic itself was fine. My husband and I would open our cupboard and twirl the lazy Susan around and say, we got enough beans and tomatoes to live here for another 3 years if Wegmans doesn't open, you know.
Sure.
But when we were let loose, when we could go out into the atmosphere, like in June, you know, and even just to eat takeout, I was ravenous for chicken. I went to a Memorial Day party, and I had 4 or 5 chicken wings, and I had IBS symptoms for 3 or 4 days, you know. But there's that sense of can't get enough. That this pandemic, I think, is affecting many people in that way who have issues with food, which I certainly do.
So let me just clarify. So you took the course about 4 years ago?
Yes.
And you've been
And
on
then I did a Jumpstart about 2 years ago.
the Jumpstart about 2 years ago. And have you been on a whole food plant-based diet since then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
We occasional fish. Here's another thing I learned from you, Dr. Ted, that this came across really clearly in the class. Nothing is worth, well, I shouldn't say nothing. Few things are worth ending a friendship over. Like you had said, if you get invited to a party, or you get invited, a friend invites you for dinner, and they make all this wonderful food they've cooked all day. What are you going to sit there and say, here, I brought a bag of spinach? No, you're going to try to do the best you can, as you know, within your boundaries, but it's not that important to hurt people's feelings. And I find that that's a good barometer for me when I'm out with friends and, you know, in places where there's not a lot of good food available to me. But all there is meat. All there is those little hot dogs and the mustard and wings and the cheese bowls or bread bowls.
Sure.
So
yeah, well, good. So how do you feel now?
The pandemic has really affected my I would say my physically I feel very stiff and yeah, I'm having a lot of joint issues actually.
Okay.
And luckily I've made some changes. I went on Medicare. Now I'm saving enough money on my healthcare. I can actually work out with a trainer twice a month now. So this is great because I think the core work for me was really important. It took the pressure off my knees and my hips.
Right, and you kept that weight off too, which is.
I have kept I've gained about 5 pounds during the pandemic, but.
Wow.
But if I don't have those opportunities, which it looks like we won't have those opportunities for a while again, then one of the many wonderful things is even in my relationship with my husband, it improved exponentially because it took time to cook dinner. You had to plan things because these are fresh things you're working with. And so we would do these things together and we made dinner together. And so we never did that. It was usually me making something quick or him running in and out. That's been wonderful. That's been wonderful.
That's great. Thank you, Patti, so much for sharing your story with us.
Good. Thank you.
We all really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, sure.
I owe a lot to you and your wife, Carol. You're the beacon for me. Until I discovered you and your organization, I just never knew this type of stuff existed. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. So good to see you.